Hello and welcome. My name is April. I'm a member of the product team here at Labster, and today I'll be moderating our panel discussion, Community College Faculty Share Lessons from the Front Lines. So we're going to be talking about what it's like to teach science during a pandemic at a community college, which is to say, teaching online to a very diverse group of students. Before we begin our conversation, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping points. We'll be having a discussion for about 20 minutes, followed by a question and answer session. The Q&A session is your opportunity to ask questions using the Slido tool. So I'd like to give you a moment now to go to, and so now I'd like to introduce our panelists. Starting alphabetically with Dr. Ali Ahrabi. Dr. Ahrabi is an assistant professor of anatomy and physiology at Middlesex Community College in northeastern Massachusetts. He is a clinical researcher who specializes in understanding the genetic process at work in polycystic kidney disease. He is a passionate teacher who's been teaching for more than 15 years. He's taught biology, biotechnology, anatomy and physiology, mathematics, and physics at the undergraduate, graduate, and postdoctoral trainees level. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you.
And next, I'd like to introduce Julie Kelley. Julie is an associate professor of biology at Laredo College along the Rio Grande in Texas. She is a graduate of St. Edward's University and Texas A&M International. At Laredo College, she teaches biology, microbiology, botany lab, and zoology lab. And prior to that, she was a high school teacher for 15 years at Alexander High School. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
And our third panelist is Selinda Martinez. Selinda is also a biology instructor at Laredo College in Texas. She's a graduate of Texas A&M International and Baylor University, and she teaches biology both in person and online. In addition, she's developed master's courses for biology to be taught in an online platform. Apart from all of that, she is currently working on her PhD in curriculum, instruction, and the science of learning at the University of Buffalo. Welcome, Selinda.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have all of you here, and I want to just dive into conversation. So my first question has to be, we're teaching in the fall following a spring of COVID-19. As teachers, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And what challenges are you facing? Julie?
Well, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I'm sure everybody's feeling the same, with everything, with family. I have 3 kids upstairs right now that I told them don't come down during the session. And then, so just being at home with the kids, with everybody, it is a little bit overwhelming for me. I don't know how everyone else handles their stress, because obviously we can't leave, right, to de-stress. We have to stay home. We have to hunker down. But in terms of academically, challenges that, hopefully we'll have a good conversation on, guys. Connectivity is one of the major challenges that we've had, and accessibility to the internet here at our campus at Laredo College. So that's been one of our challenges.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone else feel free to jump in?
I guess
Selinda, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So far I've been handling it a little bit okay. It has definitely been a transition going from completely face-to-face to now going to an online platform. It definitely is now a new learning curve, having to figure out how to do a lot of the assignments and activities I used to do on a face-to-face platform to now saying, okay, now I have to develop something to teach for online. So it's been a little bit difficult. I would say I've developed a little bit better time management skills, going from teaching to also being an online student myself, as I'm doing a PhD in curriculum and instruction. So it's been a little bit of a trial and error, and having to plan my time and just taking it one day at a time and knowing, okay, I have to step back, breathe, take a little break every now and again, and then hit it again, and slowly take it day by day. I know one of the challenges that I've been facing now that we have moved online is basically student engagement. Is something that I have struggled a little bit with in trying to get students to engage into the materials. We've put up discussions to help kind of keep that interaction going, even in an online platform. We also do Zoom meetings, but the difficulty that I'm necessarily experiencing is having students attend those Zoom sessions because they are not required for them to come in at a specific time. And so usually I get maybe 1 or 2 students, and I feel like I am not reaching all of them. And sometimes that's a challenge for me because I want to be able to interact with these students. I want to be able to know who my students are, and knowing that I only see maybe 1 or 2 at a time has been a little bit of a challenge for me, and understanding whether they are learning the material or not. So that's kind of my perspective of what I've been facing so far.
Yeah, thank you. Does that resonate with you, Ali?
First of all, thank you so much. I'd like to thank Labster and all the organizers for providing such a conference to open up, these some of unanswered questions, some basically challenges that educators as well as students are facing, and what we are really going forward. And I hope that not only I heard earlier, basically that the founders, they said that this will definitely happen annually. I hope that they do it more often, not only from Labster, I'm hoping from other companies, and as well as basically academia. And I'm very pleased to be here with my colleagues, Julie and Selinda, and thank you, April. So definitely, I look at family as well as work, 2 challenges. So I have a 5-year-old, so she's in kindergarten, and definitely I'm also a teacher for her right now. So I had to really, manage during summer and especially in fall right now, differently to be not only as a parent and a teacher for her, as well as teacher for my own students. But coming back to the challenges, I break down basically our, the experience with COVID-19, and after that to 2 parts, like distance learning versus crisis teaching. So make it short, back in March and May, basically up to May, April and May, we really had this more crisis teaching versus less distance learning. But I can happily say with all the challenges right now from summer, especially in fall, which almost we are halfway through, we are in more distance learning and less crisis teaching. So I stop here, and then I'm sure other questions will allow us to really elaborate on that.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't have a follow-up question to how are you doing as teachers with how do you think your students are doing? And what kind of challenges do you feel they are facing as community college students? Feel free to jump in.
Well, I mean, I think just like any other university, whether it's a 4-year university or a 2-year university, I think students are having the same challenges that we're having, the anxiety, the stress level, being at home, where they could leave for half the day or a full day, go do their, be on campus. Now they're stuck at home with the family, taking care of their kids, perhaps, maybe even taking care of parents that are sick or relatives that are sick. In our community, it's been really difficult because in our culture, there tends to be multiple generations in a household. So you're going to have grandparents, you're going to have mom and dad, you're going to have the kids. You might even have a child now who has a child. So just being all together, that is a challenge in itself. What we've done here at our college, we have provided our students with laptop devices for those who don't have them. we've also have provided some of the computers or laptops that they're using have already hotspots within them. And then we're really proud that we have a really good collaboration with our districts as well, because they have given every student in the districts their own devices. And then they even have buses that have hotspots strategically placed around the town. So that kind of alleviates a little bit of the stress, the anxiety. So we are working together with a lot of organizations, districts to try to, alleviate that anxiety. But I think the anxiety level is high for our students at the moment. I know Selinda has had several instances with some students as well. Selinda, I don't know if you want to elaborate, not too specific, but kind of discuss that, what you've gone over in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I'm kind of there with Allie too. In the beginning weeks, we were definitely doing some of that crisis teaching. And I've had many students email me feeling overwhelmed, being kind of anxious. It's all piling up on me. I'm trying to deal work. I'm trying to do schoolwork at the same time. So the emotional level is definitely high. And along with anxiety levels, and as mentioned before, I've gotten some students who have said, I just can't do this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it's almost like I almost have to put a counselor hat now on and kind of say, okay, take a breather, don't try to do everything at once, plan your time, plan your calendar. The other thing that I've had to discuss with my students is, especially on an online platform, is for them to learn how to study. I think that it's one of the key things that I've had to focus on. Is many of my students go, I can't do this test. I don't know why I'm not performing this way. I don't know why I'm struggling. And it's me having to say, well, you are struggling, but it's not that you don't know the material. It's you might not know how to study. And now that you're having to study the material, basically now on your own or with very little assistance, it's now a new learning curve. So that's something that we have been experiencing. But our school does have excellent counselors. Sometimes I've had to refer to my students to the counseling services so they can talk to somebody, feel like they can reach out, that they're not all alone. There is somebody out there. You may feel like you are alone, but you're not. You can always reach out to somebody. Here are some counselors. You can reach out to me. And again, it's, as Allie was mentioning, that kind of crisis teaching, kind of putting on that hat of being a counselor, trying to get students to not feel as overwhelmed and working with them. So that's kind of been something that I've been seeing from my students.
I like to add definitely what Julie and Selinda mentioned. Absolutely, we all faculty, especially at community colleges, seeing this in higher extent. What I mean, everybody knows that community colleges, they have a different audience. In terms of students, they are non-traditional students. They're basically mostly coming from lower income families or themselves. They're lower income students. And in addition, we can see this COVID-19 really added that up. We had it in the past, the challenges that they had, and we knew about it. And honestly, I personally, I did my education in different colleges and universities, as well as community college. And then I even taught basically at different colleges, different universities, and different community colleges. And one of the reasons I'm really attracted teaching at community college more than other schools is just because of that challenge. Maybe my background that I'm a researcher, so as a researcher, I like to be challenged to go over the unknowns. That's the same thing. So we need to clarify, and I'm positive that everybody knows in academia that we definitely have a different audience. So even before COVID-19, we knew we have students that are non-traditional. They're coming with lower income. So COVID-19 added, basically intensified that. Right now we have the students who have lack of childcare, who basically most of them were manufacturing or basically service-based jobs that you all aware of that. I don't have to basically give statistics that how many of them have lost their jobs. So we certainly as faculty facing a different audience, different group of students. And for sure, we need to do more. And we are. And I'm honestly, on behalf of the colleagues that are around me, I'm impressed. I mean, I have again worked with different schools and I'm aware of what is going on with them. I'm constantly in contact with them. And I just take my hat off to all faculty in either private or public school, but certainly I can see the public school, the community college faculty are doing amazing job, as well as the students. And that's something that I left for other questions.
Well, I think this dovetails with my next question very nicely, and that is, have you discovered any silver linings from this worldwide crisis, from teaching during a pandemic? Are there any takeaways or key learnings that you've found as a result of having to go through this kind of a trial? Ale?
For sure, definitely this experience after COVID-19, as I mentioned, forced us to really not only apply all the experiences that we had in the past, but also really train ourselves to adapt to the new way of teaching. So without a doubt, this online distancing and basically learning was around us. And a lot of faculty were interested. Some of them were brave. They jumped in even before COVID-19. And honestly, even at our school, just back in November, before everybody was aware of this pandemic is going to start, we were really having different discussions. I mean, especially almost every school is interested in that because we have to, be realistic. I mean, right now, we see that when we are forced, we have to do it. But why not to be prepared ahead of time? And that was a discussion that we had earlier. And I know it's a very, let's say, touchy subject in terms of, okay, what about the labs? And then that's exactly, I'm happy that Labster has taken the initiative of organizing such conference, because in education, you have the theory and then you have the hands-on. I mean, definitely these two things are going together. So in a face-to-face environment, yes, everyone is successful delivering that teaching and students receiving the best of education. But can we do that online? And certainly there were a lot of, discussions about that. Oh, the lab part is not that easy, especially for science, especially for biology or chemistry or physics. So now, if you really speak to them, I mean, I can speak on my behalf for anatomy and physiology or biology, and especially Julie and Selinda, but especially chemistry and physics, how are they doing that? So when that force comes, we need to evolve. In biology, we have the evolution. So this is another evolution is happening. And honestly, we're going to talk about that. It's going to stay with us. I mean, even if this pandemic gets over soon, I hope, there might be another one. There might be a different version of this COVID-19. So for that reason, I believe we learned a lot. We are still in the process of learning. But to be honest, with all the challenges, even speaking to students frequently, they accept it. We are in the same world. We are in the same situation, and everybody's helping each other. I mean, the empathy. I mean, it's beyond my imagination. I mean, we try to really, make the best of what we have currently, but at the same time, this comes the research part. We need to do our research. We need to have these panels. We need to have these discussions. Where are the problems? What we have learned, and we need to plan ahead. So these are definitely the silver linings that I believe that we need to, applied to our next month, next semester, next year, and never think that that's it. I mean, this is for a short period of time. I stop right here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's definitely been an evolutionary process where before COVID hit, you know, as I was teaching online, these resources were always there. We just never really kind of utilized them. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and take, for example, Zoom. I had never used Zoom before in my online classes. And all of a sudden COVID hit, our face-to-face classes were now going online. And one of the things that was really kind of thrust upon us is, all right, you know, now you have to do a conferencing tool with students. I had never used Zoom before in my entire life until this kind of pandemic hit. And now it's slowly becoming, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it. I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of it. But it's interesting because of this pandemic, you know, and moving these courses online, I'm discovering new applications, new type of technology to help incorporate into online classes. And if I had to say of a silver lining, a positive thing to this, it would be that. But it is a learning process. It's something there that you have to try it, see how you can get it to work, because it may not work the first time, but I say, you know, see what works and what kind of you have some challenges with it, and tweak it every now and again and say, okay, you know, this was the part that didn't work, this was the part that worked. And that's part of that evolutionary process. And that's what I've been kind of encountering as I'm going through this. And like I said, I'm still learning new about it. Sometimes I go through Zoom, other times I've been in meetings that use Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. And it's being that adaptive and saying, okay, this is what this program does, this is what this program does, this is what you can do here, this is what you can do there. And it's been a learning process, I will say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think, yeah, like you guys mentioned, I think as educators, we have to be able to adapt and change to what we're given, right? Because our students that we have now, they're into technology, right? They know everything. They know more than we know. So we as educators also have to stay on top of the technology to be able to teach them, right? So I think it's wonderful. It's great that we're learning new stuff, and you have to constantly be able to adapt to the changing times, right? I would hate to be a professor, you know, in 30, 40 years and something comes up and I can't do it. So you have to be able to learn and be able to learn for the benefit of your students ultimately. So it's been fun, I think. I mean, not the COVID part fun, but the technology part.
Well, thinking of some of the tools that you've been able to use now that we've been predominantly teaching online for a semester and a half, perhaps we'll say, what are the resources that you found most helpful? I know all three of you utilize Labster in your courses. How is that working out, and what else are you using?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
In general, we definitely need to consider big ideas. I mean, that certainly can resonate with students, right? So the question that we have here, and you mentioned nicely, April, so how can we really teach science in a virtual way? I mean, that really connects the theory with real world applications. So that's the challenge. I mean, definitely there are different tools, and Labster, in my opinion, has been really working for a long time. I can see the details in a lot of simulations, and compared to other ones, I mean, I can name them, and it's in the market, like Atom, a visible body. So definitely for biology and anatomy, of course, and there are other ones for engineering and physics. But my point is that who is able to really can really approach to both theory and basically this physiology or the real world application together. So in general, you have to look at them. I mean, yes, we are doing it virtually, so we are working with simulations. So which one is really having a good simulation that really needs to be like a map, like a road map that contains all the steps to go to your destination? I mean, yes, you as an instructor, you basically showing the roadmap, especially you have to leave that first impression with your students and, uh, introduce it, how to use it and all that, be along with them. But then again, we are teaching them, I mean, this is another part that maybe needs another discussion, to also really make themselves become better independent learners. So that's one thing that's the challenge that comes to faculty. And then the other part that basically we introduce how to use these roadmaps. So overall, I can tell that almost everything in the world right now needs even more improvement. I mean, no doubt. But there are some of them that have really taken that extra challenge. And thanks to Labster, I can see that. I mean, that theory and physiology is combined. And I'm happy to mention that so far we have had success. And I can later on in discussion mention about the leaders of the schools, the management team, that I will definitely like to speak about that, how some schools, of course, everybody is really working hard, caring for the students, but some schools have been more successful, really, with all the challenges, with all the dropout in the enrollments and all the money issues, still coming and getting these basically tools, online tools from Labster or other companies available to their students. So I thank personally for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to agree. Using Labster has definitely been positive in the sense that students are able to relate the theory to real world concepts. It's not just a step-by-step procedure that students have to follow, but it's more with scientific inquiry, scientific investigation, experimentation, and they kind of related to real world problems that they can solve. Right. Some of the other kind of applications that I've used are basically some that I kind of found online. It usually falls with like YouTube videos, other forms of kind of simulations and activities to kind of fill in any type of gaps that I might find. I know that Labster works extremely well with cell molecular biology type concepts. I know one of the struggles that me and Julie have had is finding labs to for those courses that are basically kind of more specialized, like botany or zoology, or diversity of organisms. I know that those are the challenges that we've had faced. And we've had to kind of look to different places to try to fill in some of those gaps to, as Ali was mentioning, kind of bring in that theory with real world applications. And I've used HHMI Biointeractive. That's one that I've used for kind of videos or type of activities. Others are just kind of YouTube videos or wherever I can find a little type of simulation to supplement what they're actually learning. So it's been a combination of different technologies incorporated, especially for the lab, because the lab is very difficult in the sense that we really want to give them students a hands-on experience. And that's the difficulty of it, is how do we give them that hands-on experience but at the same time provide them with that theory, and it's got to be a mix, and it's been a bit about a trial and error, but it's been good so far. I would have to say it's been positive.
Great.
Yeah, and me, for the reviews I get from the students, the comments, because again, at the end of every lab one that they complete on Labster, I ask them, how was it? Where did you have any problems? What did you think of the notes, everything? And for the most part, students enjoy it. They say it's fun, it's easy, it's interactive. So it's been really good on my end. Again, you'll get one or two students in the class that say I had trouble with Labster, but other than that, the students seem to enjoy it, and they find it easy and it's helpful. So I think it's a positive. That's the only one I've used so far. I haven't used other simulations. So, you know, if Labster continues to do what they're doing, then I'll stick with Labster. But like I said, I haven't used other ones, so I can't vouch on other technologies that are out there for simulations.
Well, we certainly appreciate those kind words. And I guess I'd like to break in now with one question that we have from our Q&A on Slido. And it comes from an instructor who's in a rural area where students have shared laptops or don't have internet access. They're sharing time with their family on one computer. What can they do to fill in for their lab subjects? How can those students continue learning? Any thoughts from Julie, Selinda? I know it's a tough one.
I know difficulty in that because we've had the, I think another colleagues of mine that they live near the river. So if you're familiar with our geography, we're next to the Rio Grande, we're next to Mexico. And sometimes if, like me, if I'll get dead spots in my house. Right now I have internet instability. It just came across my screen. So depending on where you live, you might not have any internet, right? So what we've done at the colleges, our parking lots are, I think, are connected with hots, or I don't know if they're called wireless access points or if they're like actual hotspots. I think it's one of those. So our parking lots have that, and we have 2 campuses. So if students are having trouble with, you know, connectivity at home in a rural area or a place where they don't have anything, they can drive. Mind you, they'll be in their car, sit in the parking lot and work from there, or at least connect and do their assignments and submit whatever they have to do. So that's what we've done. I don't know if this is feasible, you know, in that part of town where they're at, but that would be something that they could consider, you know, setting up these areas around the campus that the students can go there and, you know, connect to their devices to that wireless access point. We also have a good relationship, I believe, with our university, with Texas A&M as well. So our students could go there also and hit their hotspots. I think the main thing is probably just to reach out to different organizations or a different company or someone who's willing to collaborate with the university or the college itself to try to open more of these wireless access points so they can connect. In terms of not having a lot of devices at home, again, we've had that problem here, but again, our school districts, the high schools, because we have a lot of dual students, so we were able to meet their demands. The school district themselves were able to provide a device to every single student in our community. So, I mean, that would be another thing, you know, contact the local districts, the councilmen, and say, hey, is there any funding out there to get devices? Because I'm sure they're willing to help. They just have to kind of reach out to them. I mean, I'd call the city councilman and say, hey, what can you do? You know, to help our students.
You need to be an advocate, it sounds like.
Yeah, like an advocate. Reach out and contact whoever you can. You contact Dell, or the people that make laptops, you know?
Absolutely. Selinda?
No, I was going to say, and also to be a little bit flexible and understanding that, you know, these things will happen where, you know, the internet will go down, they don't have the resources needed. And sometimes you have to be a little bit flexible in how you approach it. Sometimes I've had to send students documents themselves. At our college, we do have where we can refer them to administrators, and they do lend out laptops. That's one thing that they've done. Thankfully, our library is starting to open up, not at full capacity, but they're beginning to open up where now students can kind of come in and use the computers if they need to. We've used programs before where they can do assignments that are offline. So using their smartphones, for example, is a way to kind of do it, where they can do some assignments even on their smartphone if they have one. And again, it's knowing who your students are and being able to be a little bit flexible and know that if they don't have a laptop, if they don't have access to Wi-Fi, maybe giving them a chance to do the assignment, making it, instead of one day that it's due, making it 2 days, or expanding some of the availability, and being flexible, knowing that they are going to have some of these challenges ahead of them. So that's basically the only thing that I would kind of add to that.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. Ollie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'll try to make it short. I mean, this is the area that Definitely. I'm sure you can easily speak about it for hours, and something that everyone is facing in different states, different cities, different towns, different countries. I mean, as basically Selinda mentioned, both Julie, I resonate with that. We need to be flexible, I mean, for our side. This is a time that is different. And we learn how to be flexible, especially with community college non-traditional students, but we need to be more flexible because of all the issues going on. But I have to give my thanks to all community colleges and all schools in the United States, I hope in every country, even developing third world countries, for stepping up and providing basically solutions or devices or free access or anything. I mean, I can speak for Middlesex College that I am with. I really admire the leadership. I mean, right now I compare with some other community colleges. I understand these are all government-based and they're basically working with the budgets, but some of them can do more than the other ones. I mean, again, we need to have these panel discussions. We need to have these consortiums. We need to have these conferences that, you know, we understand, okay, we are a government-based college. We are basically a limited budget. I mean, right now, we can see 15% decline of the enrollment, which is still, we are happy that it's not worse than that. And the college has done a lot. I mean, I can see that. I mean, they constantly in contact with any student that have such challenges with internet connection, with devices, and they, I know that they provide that. I mean, but I know not every school is doing that. And for that reason, I mean, we really need to have this discussion in a higher level, especially in government level, and see how we can all together put these ideas, big ideas, and really which resonate with the challenges with the students, and then help them. I mean, especially in such time. And I know it's happening, but it needs to be more, actually. I can see, I can hear from some other colleagues, especially even in community college, that they can't even afford to provide Lapster or some other ones. So that really puts more pressure on faculty, to be honest. I mean, so this is the area that really requires more time to speak about, and we basically need to be aware of what is going on around us personally, take every step that we can, then go to the school level, to state level, to country level, and worldwide level. I mean, I'm happy that you had Khan Academy, Mr. Khan. So it's a global awareness. I mean, we need to come together and really know these challenges. We need to basically find better solutions. We have some, but it's not enough.
True words. Would you like to touch a little bit more right now on the school leadership and the role that administrators and district heads can play in making science education and STEM education in general accessible to all students?
Oh, by all means. I mean, sorry if I'm going first. Again, so I have worked with different institutes, and basically I'm still in contact with some, and constantly in contact with my colleagues from other schools, and I can hear everyone is doing their job. I mean, absolutely brilliantly. But I can see there are some differences. The leadership, the management, I mean, again, I bring this example because I'm a very close witness with this community college compared to other community colleges in Massachusetts that I'm aware of, just few of them. They are one step up. So some other ones, they can, again, they don't have the budget to really afford Lapster, or although I'm positive, I shouldn't bring the name Lapster, but Lapster has provided lots of discount. And that's another part that I like to really point to. Not only Lapster, all these companies around the world in the United States that really to come up with better, partnerships with not only community colleges, also private schools, all together, academia, that really the beneficiary to be the students. So I can see with the leadership at Middlesex that right now, Labster is free for students. We have Atom free for students. We have basically Visible Body free for students. And there are other ones in engineering ones. So this is amazing. I mean, so it's the same community college under the Massachusetts, and compared to other community colleges, I know they're providing some alternatives, but probably not the same. But how is this happening? So this comes back to the management. This comes back to the leadership. This comes back to the government base. I mean, every state definitely has its own government, but then we have the federal government. So, and then obviously, I mean, United States is a little bit different than other countries. We need to put all these brains, I mean, these leaders together worldwide. I understand right now everybody is focused on the vaccine and all that, but look, we are living, the education is going on, the daily life is going on. I like to see, I mean, definitely something bigger event between the presidents, the leaders, I mean, the government, governors, all together sitting down and saying that, okay, how about we come up with better solutions that everybody can receive the same education, everybody can receive the same service. So I'm hoping that as we are in this evolutionary process, we can see that, and I'm positive we will see that. I mean, this will surface up. This is going to stay with us for a while.
Thank you, Ali. That is really obviously an issue that's facing all of us in education. Selinda, Julie, I don't know if you want to touch on the importance of really inclusivity, accessibility with STEM education for all students, and what we can do to advocate for it.
I think it's definitely, and the administrators are doing a really good job in you know, kind of addressing this, but there are still gaps. You do see administrators, like we mentioned before, they do hand out kind of laptops, and they're more kind of focused on, I would say, finances, and which is a good thing. You do need to be kind of focused on that, and they're focused on making sure that you engage with your students. One thing that I found that should be kind of addressed is many times, you know, we hear from higher levels, you know, you need to engage your students, you need to engage your students, but there's not really any resources out there to, okay, well, what can I use? What can I put into my classroom to help me do that engagement? And further, is there training on this? While they say, okay, well, you can use this, you can use that, you can use this, there's no training. And that's kind of the issues that I've kind of seen even among my colleagues is, well, you can use Zoom to have meetings. Well, can we have a training on this? How do we do this? Especially for some faculty that are new to this technology. And there's not that resource there. There needs to be that kind of database where it says, you know, these are the kind of technology that I use in my classroom, and this is how I've applied it. But so far that hasn't really been addressed, and it's been kind of, well, you know, it's kind of like cherry picking. Some instructors will use this, some will use this, some will use that, but there's no training. There's no, well, how has other people used it?
That's right? That is absolutely one of the reasons that Labster wanted to convene this conference. And absolutely. I hope that at the end of our conversation here, we can all jump onto the community chat forum for this conversation and just talk about sharing some ideas for what worked and what didn't work. I know we have one question in from Slido from an instructor who says, I teach face-to-face with 12 students in the room, the rest Zoom in. How can Labster be used in that type of a setting? So again, it's a question of how to apply Labster to a novel hybrid situation. Do any of you have any suggestions? Or
I haven't used it in a face-to-face setting. It's all been online, which has worked. I don't know how it would work in a face-to-face. You could probably use it as you know, as a pre-lab, right? But then yeah, so that's the way I could think of maybe using it as a pre-lab, right? Make sure you complete this beforehand so the students are familiar with the concepts beforehand. And But I've never used it, so I don't have personal experience. Ali, do you have you used it in a face-to-face setting?
Or hybrid. Where
Or
some
hybrid? Yeah,
students,
I've never done
some
hybrid.
students are face-to-face, some are at home.
Yep.
Yes. Well, let me know, because I might teach that in the spring. We're not sure yet. That would be really helpful if anybody has any input on that and on how to do it, because how to do hybrid and how to do, face-to-face with Labster. That would be great.
Let's
Selinda, do you
definitely
have
share that in the
comments?
chat room.
I can add to here. I mean, I believe basically those instructors who try to run hybrid courses, basically the lab portion, face-to-face, and again, this question that came sounds like only they were able to accommodate 12 students, and the rest, as far as I heard, were by Zoom. So I'm just assuming, are they going to have 3 lab sessions during the week if they have 36 students, or let's say 24 students, so 2 lab sessions, so 12 of them in one session, 12 of them. So in either case, certainly Labster or any online tool like similar to that with specific lab simulations can be useful either asynchronously, synchronously, in hybrid, or completely online. And the reason is very basic, in my opinion. So in a regular face-to-face lab, let's say we have different courses and different basically content, and then average of 2 hours of lab time face-to-face. I have seen by experience, I'm positive my colleagues here will basically verify the same thing. There are some students, especially, let's say, freshmen or sophomore students that have less experience, that they need more than 2 hours. So, and they can easily run behind. They can really finish the lab in time. And then there is really no more space. Of course, we as faculty say, okay, if you didn't finish, if the next lab, you are the instructor that you're running the next lab with other students, you can say, okay, you can come in the next one and maybe in the corner of the room and finish it. But the time is the of essence here. So with this situation of online lab, I mean, definitely students have that extra opportunity to repeat the lab exercise. So to learn better, actually, not only to finish, I mean, in the Labster part, you can have 2 options. You can say, okay, just 1 attempt, and then whatever you got it, so that's it. But I always put it unlimited. So the reason is, and that they can really have the best, highest score. So I have had good students with the first attempt or second attempt, they get 80%. They want to get 100%. Why not? That repeat of the lab absolutely makes them to really learn better. I mean, they get exposed again. And then that's the same for students with challenge. So for sure, it can be used in both situations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and if I can kind of add just a little bit to that, I know those are the discussions that we're having as we slowly begin to decide how are we going to begin moving back to a face-to-face setting once we are safe to do so. And one of the things that I've been kind of researching into is that students tend to learn better when you incorporate both online kind of simulation, virtual lab, with a hands-on type of experience, right? And this is something that sometimes we say, oh, well, this is just for online. Once we go to face-to-face, we're going to leave it all behind. You can't. I would say keep doing that kind of online component. And in a way, it's like flipping that classroom. Have students do those virtual labs at home, continue working through them. So that way they get that experience to investigate. And as Ali mentioned, they can do it over and over and over. And they can explore what happens if I do this, or what happens if I do that, right? And when they go into the face-to-face, when they do that hands-on lab, they have a better understanding of what they're looking at. It's not like, you know, I've done just the hands-on, of course, face-to-face lab, and students will come in, but they have no idea what results they're going to get. They have no idea what the lab is even talking about. They haven't read what the procedure is at all. And in this other way, when they do this at home, they have a better understanding of, okay, I know what results I should be getting. I know how to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. I know what to kind of expect. I know what I'm getting into now. Whereas before students didn't read, they didn't know what to do in the lab. So I would say it's a combination of both. So even going on a hybrid, you can still incorporate the online component with the hands-on.
Thank you very much, Selinda.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the guests that have generously spent their time with us today, Julie Kelley, Selinda
you.
Martinez, and Ahrabi. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.